Part two. Lastly, I read about a possible solution to this controversy. This article suggests a possible hybrid solution to having a system of universal health care in the United States. As of 2007, when this article was published, 15.9% of the United States population lacked health insurance coverage. According to the United States Census Bureau, as of 2018, only 8.5% of the United States population lacked insurance coverage. Okay, I see what you're saying. I don't know why more coffee. I'm with you. According to the United States Census, oh God, okay. As you can see, over the years, there has been some improvement, but I believe at the time of this article's publication, the United States was looking to test different methods of universal healthcare programs. We also know that this hybrid solution was never implemented, but I find it important to look at different models and methods tested over the years in order to figure out what may work best in the future. I feel like you didn't explain what the hybrid solution was, and you don't have to go like a lot into that, but I think you need to mention it just briefly, as I'm imagining that you mean a hybrid between employer provided care and like government subsidized and provided care. But yeah, I think we need a little something in that paragraph to just kind of make sure we know what you're talking about. Okay. The hybrid approach looks to combine user. Well, now you're explaining it. Okay, so I guess now what I'm going to suggest is start with this explanation and then talk about it. Okay, the hybrid approach looks to combine universal risk pools, mandated coverage with income-based subsidies, and a restructured payment method. A restructured payment method. I guess of how hospitals and doctors are paid by the government or something. Okay, a health insurance risk pool can be defined as a group of individuals whose medical costs are combined to calculate premiums. This allows for higher costs for the less healthy to be offset by the typically lower costs for the healthy within the plan. According to Luft, this method would help improve both equity and efficiency in relation to healthcare services and their availability. A universal pool, quote, eliminates the adverse selection problems inherent in voluntary coverage. Oh, I love the way that person wrote that. It eliminates the adverse selection problem inherent in voluntary coverage. It sounds fancy, but it's also like, that's well put. Okay, and should be designed to avoid things like special interest pleadings and preferences for the healthy majority. And like the temporarily healthy majority, like one thing that I often think of in this whole discussion is the fact that pretty much everybody is going to be in need of significant health care at some point in their life, unless they just, live a while and then just immediately drop dead. That doesn't happen to most people. So yeah, you may be healthy right now, but yeah. Okay. With such things as inpatient services, the risk pool would be built off of the Medicare model where payments are based on diagnosis-related groups, but could also be expanded to include professional fees and services sometimes associated with hospitalizations. Okay, I think that means that when the government reimburses for Medicare stuff, something with this diagnosis-related groups helps them to determine how much they're going to pay for stuff. Maybe that's right. In regards to, and I mean, I'm saying that not because you're here to teach me about healthcare, but because in your writing it could be clearer, I think. In regards to patients with ongoing or chronic conditions, the costs associated with their needed care would be offset by monthly payments from the risk pool. Overall, organizing pool payments in around conditions. Oh, okay, that isn't what you mean. Organizing pool payments and around conditions instead of specific services would allow for more, quote, flexibility in treatment, simplified billing, and a much greater focus on outcomes and improving processes. Okay, so a couple of things in this paragraph. I did need explained to me sooner what this diagnosis-related group was. Obviously I got here and I was like, oh, That's not what I thought. And after your quote, the flexibility in treatment, simplified billing, greater focus on outcomes, this is one place where you haven't kind of wrapped up what the author said with your own take on it and kind of leading your reader into the next thing you're going to say. So you could use a sentence there that says something like, many countries have found that they've had more flexibility in treatment and billing has become easier and there's a greater focus on blah, 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 or something like that. Just to always you kind of repeat what your quote said so that we make sure we're like, know what you think it means. Maybe that's even part of it. Okay, now taking a look at a real life example of a country that has a system of universal health care, we turn our attention to Thailand. Ooh, interesting. In 2001, Thailand implemented what was called the Universal Coverage Scheme. This scheme built off of some of their previous programs as it covered uninsured individuals and individuals of the population who are eligible for the low-income card scheme. Well, to us, like scheme sounds like twist your mustache, like sounds like a bad thing, but I'm sure to them it's just a plan. Okay, the scheme is built eligible for the low-income card scheme and the health card scheme. Many years prior, LICS was implemented to provide health care coverage to economically disadvantaged people, and HCS, quote, constituted voluntary health insurance and was financed by government intervention at the sub-district level. One problem that was found with the system was a rise in inequality when it came to benefits available for the three different schemes under UCS. Having multiple different schemes that people could be covered under created some challenges due to the differing specifics as to how services are funded and where individuals can receive treatment. Okay, I think what you mean is like those different things that you mentioned, like, okay, there's universal coverage, there's low income, there's health card. And I think what you're saying is that some people might get more than one of those. So I don't know, you could clarify that a little bit more. The analysis presented in the article, however, argues that Thailand has been successful in achieving its overarching healthcare goals. In 2001, when their system of universal healthcare was first put in place, the percentage of their population with healthcare coverage was 71%. In 2012, these statistics were reanalyzed, and it was found that their percentage of their population with universal healthcare coverage had increased to 99.9%. Whoa! Wow. And that's better than the United States, isn't it? Although there may be faults within Thailand's system of universal healthcare, I believe that these statistics prove that their actions were largely successful. In the end, my argument remains the same. The stance is that there should be a universal healthcare system in the United States. I believe that access to affordable healthcare is a fundamental human right. Oh, there you go. You went there. I was just asking in the other paper, like, is that where you're going with this? And the fact that there are still millions of people in the United States who aren't able to obtain healthcare coverage is almost infuriating. Oh, I think it is infuriating. No need to say almost. Yeah, it makes you sound like you're not really totally sure, and you're sure. In my opinion, there are no downsides to everyone having equal access to healthcare. Sure, you can argue that you don't want to pay for other people's health insurance with your tax dollars, but shouldn't we be looking out for and taking care of our fellow citizens? I would also add that you will end up paying for your neighbor's stuff, like, regardless. Like, there's just kind of no way around it. If we go back to, like, Charles Dickens' time, like, we'll end up paying for all these people who die in the streets to bury them, right? That's a horrible example, but it's also true. I think people generally need to stop focusing only on themselves and need to start focusing on issues that maybe don't affect them directly. We need to be able to support others, and we'll never be able to do that if we don't start empathizing and advocating for change. Oh, beautiful. I'm glad you're going to work on that, because that really, really needs to happen. Okay, what was one other little thing in here I had? So, at this point in your education, I would say, you do not need, like I said, you don't need that almost to be like, well, it's almost infuriating. And you definitely don't need, in my opinion. What do I want to say about that? For me, to some extent, this is a gender issue, that women are generally qualify their arguments more, and at times when they don't need to. Not that you're doing this because you're female or anything like that, but that is a marker of female language use in our culture. Um, that women feeling like they need to, sorry, time check, women feeling like they kind of need to back away from their opinion and be like, well, I mean, almost, like, kind of, like, maybe, where men have been socialized more to just be like, this is how it is, fight me. So just for that reason, you, in under the circumstances and within this paper, you don't at all have to hold back and be like, well, it's just what I think. Like, it's your damn paper, and you should just, like, this is what we should do. Okay, and let's look at works cited. Oh, see, there are all the spacing indents look good. Tiny thing. I think citations is supposed to be centered on that page, but obviously that's a teeny tiny thing. Okay, before I'm out of time, I will just mention, like, I'm trying to think of what this. I really, really loved. There's this British TV show. I think it's called Embarrassing Bodies. And I don't know where I watched it, but I mean, if you're into medical stuff, I'm sure you would find it interesting. But the crazy thing about it to me in particular was that because, so that these doctors, like, people will come in and they're like, I have this very embarrassing problem. I have a hernia, or I don't know what, I have, a hemorrhoid, or I don't know, something else that people think is really embarrassing. And then they'll just show them being treated, and they're like, see, I mean, these things happen, and doctors aren't like, but what was so interesting to me about the show is that so much of the discussion in Britain about healthcare is just about, don't be too embarrassed to go. And I was like, wow, like, that's not even the American problem. We have all these people who have problems, and they feel like they can't go, or maybe they really can't go, to a doctor because they can't afford it. And in Britain, I mean, other problems they may have aside, in Britain, the only thing that's keeping you from having your, hemorrhoid looked at or whatever is you making the time to just go. So anyway, you might enjoy that show. Okay. Thank you for your paper. I really enjoyed reading this and learning some more about. I wonder if you want to tie back is it this one you talk about GDP and Thailand? It feels like that was something you were planning to tie back in, and maybe you didn't, right? Because that's a place you want to be like, okay, obviously Thailand is very different from the United States in many ways, but still we could learn from it or something like that. Okay, I think that's it.